Albert Camus asserted that there is only one really serious philosophical problem, and that is suicide. This statement, which opens his seminal work, The Myth of Sisyphus, encapsulates his exploration of the absurd, the conflict between humans' desire to find meaning in life and the silent, indifferent universe that offers none. Camus contends that the question of whether life is worth living is the fundamental question of philosophy, from which all other inquiries stem. He positions suicide as a response to the recognition of life's inherent absurdity. Camus defines the absurd as a confrontation between the human need for meaning and the universe's indifference to that need. This realization leads to a crisis. Should one continue to live in the face of this absurdity, or should one choose to end one's life? Camus rejects traditional rational analysis and philosophical doctrines that attempt to impose order on this chaos. He sees the pursuit of rational knowledge as futile and mocks the pretensions of universal reason and determinism, suggesting that such efforts are enough to make a decent man laugh. The absurd arises not from the world itself, but from the human condition. It is an intrinsic part of our experience, preceding philosophical thought. Camus emphasizes that the absurd is not merely an abstract concept, but a lived experience that permeates our daily existence. This pervasive sense of absurdity is captured through vivid imagery, as he describes the monotonous cycle of daily life: work, meals, and sleep, highlighting the repetitive and meaningless nature of existence. The recognition of absurdity naturally leads to the question of suicide. If life is meaningless, is it worth continuing? Camus addresses this dilemma not by arguing for or against suicide, but by exploring the consequences of accepting the absurd. He posits that many people commit suicide before they judge life to be not worth living. However, he argues that such a judgment is premature and incomplete, as it fails to fully embrace the absurd condition. Camus proposes that instead of succumbing to despair, one should confront the absurd with defiance and lucidity. This involves living without hope for another life, without succumbing to religious or ideological escapism. He draws on the myth of Sisyphus to illustrate this attitude. Sisyphus, condemned to eternally push a boulder up a hill, only for it to roll back down each time, embodies the human struggle against absurdity. Despite the futility of his task, Sisyphus persists, finding meaning in the struggle itself. While Camus shares the existentialist recognition of life's absurdity, he diverges sharply from their conclusions. He critiques existentialist philosophers such as Kierkegaard, Jaspers, and Sartre for their reliance on transcendental or religious solutions to the absurd. Camus argues that these thinkers ultimately escape from the absurd by finding meaning in something beyond human experience, whether it be God, a transcendental ideal, or an overarching purpose. For Camus, accepting the absurd means rejecting all such escapees. It involves a full acknowledgement of life's meaninglessness and a refusal to seek comfort in illusory answers. This leads to a life lived in revolt against the absurd, characterized by a continuous struggle to impose one's own meaning on a meaningless world. Despite the bleakness of his philosophy, Camus does not advocate for nihilism or despair. Instead, he suggests that embracing the absurd can lead to a form of happiness. This happiness arises from the intense consciousness of one's condition and the determination to live fully despite it. By accepting the limits of human understanding and the inevitability of death, one can find joy in the present moment and the act of living itself. Camus' notion of happiness is unconventional. It is not derived from achieving external goals or finding ultimate meaning, but from the very struggle against the absurd. This is vividly illustrated in the closing image of Sisyphus, who, despite his eternal and futile labor, is imagined by Camus to be happy. Sisyphus's happiness lies in his awareness of his fate and his defiant persistence in the face of it. His consciousness transforms his suffering into a source of strength and joy. Albert Camus' exploration of suicide as a response to absurdity challenges us to reconsider the nature of meaning and existence. By rejecting traditional rationality and transcendental solutions, he offers a philosophy that embraces the absurd and finds value in the struggle against it. Camus' thought provokes us to live with integrity and intensity, fully aware of our limitations and the futility of our efforts, yet resolutely committed to the act of living. In this way, he transforms the despair of absurdity into a source of strength and a call to live authentically.